from heaven, Mac.
Shadow the Hedgehog is better than Sonic the Hedgehog. Now hear me out. I have 5 reasons for why Shadow is better than Sonic, so before you jump into the comments and yell at me and explain why I'm wrong, let me just explain my reasoning first. Now, before I dive into my whole explanation of why Shadow is better than Sonic, I do want to preface in saying I'm not saying that Shadow is stronger than Sonic, or that he is faster than Sonic, or anything along those lines, although those could contribute to why Shadow might be better than Sonic. My overall argument isn't centered around the fact that Shadow might be or is faster or stronger than Sonic. That said, let me get into my explanations. Firstly, Shadow the Hedgehog has fought cooler villains than Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this is of course subjective, this whole video is subjective, but when you look at Shadow's Rose Gallery compared to Sonic's, you'll see that they have a lot in common, although the ones that are different are the ones that really set Shadow apart. One of my favorite all-time villains in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise has to be Mephiles the Dark, and Sonic never fought Mephiles at all, except unless you count Solaris as the final form with Mephiles and Iblis merged together, although I really don't. I think the cool thing about it is Mephiles killed Sonic, although Sonic never really even got to fight Mephiles in actual physical altercation or anything along those lines. I don't even think the two characters even shared any dialogue together, but Shadow, he got to do that and more. And being able to go toe-to-toe against Mephiles, one of my favorite Sonic villains, already makes him cooler than Sonic in my opinion. Of course, there are other Sonic the Hedgehog villains like Black Doom, and I'd even argue that Infinite is more of a Shadow villain than a Sonic villain, even despite the fact that Sonic and Infinite had more fights than Infinite and Shadow, but Infinite is only the way he is because of Shadow, and I've made a video talking about this before, but Sonic Forces really should have been a Shadow the Hedgehog game because of what Shadow was able to do to Infinite's character in the very beginning. In other words, Infinite wouldn't even be who he is if it weren't for Shadow the Hedgehog, and you can kind of take that as it is, whether you like Infinite or not, this is still something that happened. But in terms of Black Doom, I'd say he was pretty cool. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the Shadow the Hedgehog game, but the villain itself, I think, yeah, no, I like him. And like I said, a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog's villains are Shadows, so it kind of evens out. Like, you still get Eggman as part of Shadow's Rose Gallery, because Shadow has faced off against Eggman multiple times before as well, so I see this as kind of a win. Shadow's going to take the W on this one. Sure, he didn't fight anyone like Dark Gaia or the End, but I'd argue that Mephiles is probably better than both of them. For my second point, I have to say that Shadow the Hedgehog has a dark origin story, and that's one reason why he's better than Sonic. Now, Sonic as a character, I don't even think he actually even has an origin story. He just kind of like happened, and then yeah. But Shadow, he's got this deep, convoluted backstory, and he's got all these emotional problems because of that story that make him a really unique and lovable character. I wouldn't say that Shadow's origin story humanizes him in any way or makes him more relatable, but I think just because he went through so many circumstances and situations that I feel like no one else could have possibly imagined, it makes him such a cool character because even through all of those tough circumstances, he's still him. He is still Shadow the Hedgehog through and through. And this kind of perfectly conveys to my next point. Because of Shadow's origin story, he's gone through a legendary character arc. Now, of course, of recent years, you can argue that Shadow hasn't been the best he's ever been, and of course, I would agree with you as a huge Shadow the Hedgehog fan, but even still, after he was brought back in games like Sonic Heroes, I would say for the next couple years, he became a character who was really interesting, and I'd say he was interesting because he kept constantly developing and changing over time. He wasn't this stagnant character that Sonic is sometimes, where he doesn't really grow or develop or become even smarter than he was before. Sure, Sonic gets stronger and everything like that, but Shadow, he's different because I feel like he used to be deeply affected by the plots he was actually taking place in, and because of that, he grew in each and every single game. Going from a character who wanted nothing but to exact revenge on the world to one who wants to protect it and do what's right is really awesome, and Shadow is so cool for it. And not to mention, Shadow isn't a character who only grows in just his mental capacity, but also his physical capacity as well, because he continues to contest against Sonic the Hedgehog. No matter what the circumstances are, I always feel like Shadow has the best odds of beating Sonic out of anyone else in the franchise. Yes, Mephiles killed Sonic, but I feel as though that was a cheap shot, and I feel like that's the only way you can possibly look at this. Shadow can fight Sonic head-on and have it actually be a real, legitimate fight, and it can go on for a very long time, and probably end in a stalemate or a victor, but by a very slight edge. But you know what the best part is? We've never seen Shadow fight Sonic at full power. Shadow never really ever uses his full power. If you think about it, these inhibitor rings that he wears on his wrist and ankles are supposed to be able to limit his power to a certain amount, that way he's not overexerting himself and passing out in the end. Correct me in the comment section down below if I'm wrong, but I believe there's only 2 times where Shadow took off his inhibitor rings, and that was in Sonic Adventure 2 towards the end when they were fighting the final hazard, and also in Sonic 06 when he was fighting Mephiles. But do you know what that means? That means every time Shadow has fought Sonic, he's never fought at full power. And also, Shadow rarely, if ever, fights at full power. So with that in mind, Shadow is so strong that he's able to take on most threats without even having to go at full strength. This dude is insane. Shadow is just an insanely powerful yet very captivating character. But you know what's really cool about him too? Everything is just all business with him. He's such a no-nonsense character that for him, all he prioritizes is getting the job done right. Because of his no-nonsense personality, you hardly ever see him make mistakes, but he does make decisions for the benefit of the group. Like for example, this one cutscene where Shadow dove to save Rouge instead of the Scepter of Darkness. I mean, sure, it unleashed Mephiles upon the world, but he made sure that his teammate didn't end up getting hurt. Very cool, Shadow. Very cool. But ladies and gents, that was just 5 reasons why Shadow the Hedgehog is better than Sonic. Let me hear all of your reasons in the comment section down below, or if you disagree and you think that Sonic is better, also make sure to let me know, because actually I am planning on doing a video talking about why Sonic the Hedgehog is better than Shadow, so you should definitely go check that one out as soon as it drops. To be notified when that video drops, don't forget to turn on the post notifications bell, leaving a like on the video, and also subscribing, that way you never miss any Sonic Stuff content. You guys do not want to miss what I have to say. That in mind, thank you all again so much for watching this video. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?